So hello, everybody. It's my pleasure today to welcome Omar Mohout and Laurence for their new book, just published a few months ago. In Dutch, it's called Nooit, nog normaal. So Omar, you had digital at management consultancy company Nova Reperta, and a widely published author. You are a former technology entrepreneur, advisor to growth company, and professor in Antwerp Management School and Solvay Business School. Thank you for being there. And Laurence, you work at Business Relationship Officer at Agoria, the Technology Federation in Belgium, a community of more than 2,000 members, companies within manufacturing and digital industries. Within your portfolio, you are responsible for 400 digital companies, but you are also the Women in Tech ambassador for Agoria. And we will have the pleasure also to welcome you tomorrow evening. So what about Nooit, nog normaal? You will guide us through all the trends in the European AI landscape. So please, you have the floor, present the book, and we will have some questions afterwards.
Sure.
Thank you.
Will do. Thanks, Nathaniel.
Thank you, Nathaniel, for the warm introduction.
Yes. Just 1 second, because it's my task to start. Yeah. Okay. So thank you for being here today. So we'll discuss a bit about AI and then also our book, Nooit nog normaal. So Omar, I don't know if you can go to the first slide, please.
There you are.
Okay, thanks. So AI is like gravity. You don't see it, but it's there and it's got a big influence on everything. And that impact or that influence is only getting bigger by the day. And COVID was actually an accelerator for the adoption of digital and AI. And to be honest, it also was a lifesaver in these difficult times. So it's got a big impact on our daily life, maybe even more than we realize, because most of the things have become common for us and we don't even think about them anymore. So I don't know if I can ask a question to the audience, which I'm guessing is Bart, the entire audience. So I don't know, can you give us some examples about how AI has entered your daily life? What kind of AI applications do you see in your daily life? I don't know, Bart, if you want to respond.
Bart is answering the chat, hospitals,
yes.
healthcare.
Okay.
There are also people on the YouTube channel.
Huh? Okay, good. Okay. Yeah, true. There are applications in healthcare. I don't know, maybe, but if we go to our really personal life, I think there are at least 10 AI applications we all use on a daily basis. So Omar, if you can go to the next slide, and you see a lot of them here. I mean, we don't have to think about the way we'll entertain ourselves. Netflix does that for us. Banking, I think everybody uses their banking app on a daily basis, but also at work, DeepL, Google Translate. Those are applications that, I mean, I can't live without them anymore, to be honest. It really makes our lives a lot easier and simpler.
It's true. We don't realize it. Like Laurence is putting out, it's part of our daily life. Every time you do Google search, it's AI driven as such. Every time you listen to music, Spotify, it's AI driven. Our banking apps, take Kate, I believe she's called in the KBC app, the chatbot who is intelligent in there, it's coming there. Even a vacuum cleaner like Roomba, who finds the way in your home, is already AI driven. When you text your message or email on your smartphone, autocorrect, which is really handy, right? You're just putting a couple of things and correcting. I mean, we don't realize, we don't take this into account as this is AI. We use it and we think it's great. After 2-3 days, we forgot about it. It's normal. That's really impacting. And people underestimate the impact of algorithms on our life. What you're reading in the Facebook newsfeed or on Twitter is driven by an algorithm, which is often here. Yeah, sometimes it's invisible. I think a spam filter for Outlook or another mailbox or Gmail, whatever you use. It's there, it filters out spam, pretty accurate. In there, the majority of spam you will never see, which is the good thing. So the way it's entering our daily life, and we're not aware of that as such, is something when you realize that it's there all over time, it's not like the future, in 10 years from now, there will be AI in our daily life. It's already there for many, many years and gets even bigger and more impactful.
Yeah, true. Thanks. But of course, besides AI, there are a lot of other digital or technologies. So I don't know if you can ask the same question. You see, like AI for us, it's more than just AI. It's also about speech recognition, autonomous vehicles, chatbots, etc. But can you mention a few? What other kind of digital technologies do you know?
Sorry, Bart, it's again about you.
Or Nathaniel is there as well. I mean,
That's
Nathaniel, what other digital technologies do you know? Because there is a life and besides AI.
No, it's AI for Belgium, Laurence. You only knows AI by definition.
Automation, coding. Okay,
many, many more.
Yeah, true. If we go to the next slide, I mean, you see the amount of technologies is just, it's super big. I mean, I don't know if you want to say anything about it, Omar.
Well, just adding to it, you see maybe 25, 30 things here. It's not complete, far from it in there. Some things are really like promising to the future, quantum computing. Some are old, 3D printing is from the 80s now, by now, but still there. The interesting, what I like about this is that you realize that it's all of them are just umbrellas, a container of name given to a whole domain. Like AI is so big, so many possibilities in there. The same is true for drones or 3D printing or quantum computing. It's domain itself, which means that there is 10,000 possibilities and technology that is being here grouped into Internet of Things or AI or whatever, but it's much more than that. And that also means that there is not a single company in the world, also not Facebook or Google or whoever or Apple, who can try out all these technologies. That's why I love startups, because you're trying them all out. The majority are dying, that's a different story. But basically, nobody in the world, not a single company can try out all the possibilities in technology as such. You need an ecosystem to do that.
Yeah, true.
But of this big group of technologies, there are 4 major ones that we grouped. AI, obviously, the other one is Internet of Things. Then we have blockchain, and then we have everything around extended reality, which is VR, ER, augmented, all these kinds of technologies. And so these are the 4 major groups today. It can change over time, and maybe next time will be all about quantum computing or something else. We'll see. But what's really interesting, if we look over 12 years of data, we looked at 12 years of data, and you look to technology companies in Europe who are growing, getting funding, hiring people, going international, opening branches, so the successful ones as such, then you see in this 12 years, 13 years time frame actually, that AI was always there, the biggest group in there, more than Internet of Things, which is number 2, blockchain and ER/VR, which are 3 and 4 together. It's huge. It's something that happens and not a potential future. We saw also in example of Laurence, daily life examples, it's already happening there, which you don't see for blockchain in our daily life yet. You don't see it in AR and VR. I mean, the proof is we are in a Zoom call or we're physical. I don't see you today already having VR glasses to really have this interaction. It might be next year or in 2 years, to be clear. Today, it's not happening. And if you look to the last quarter, i.e. 2021, it's even more dominant than ever. So the technology today, which has the highest impact on society, on economy, on companies, on our life, is by far AI. And it will be there for a long time, changing everything. Again, I don't want to make any prediction about blockchain or AR, VR, whatever, but AI is really the new kid on the block, changing us every single day. Another thing, which by doing this exercise and preparing for today, with Laurence, we noticed that the new hype today everybody's talking about, like it was blockchain 3-4 years ago, was all about blockchain. A lot of companies put billions of dollars and euros in there. And 5-6 years ago, it was about ER and VR. It was like the big hype back then. Today, what really took me by surprise, that was an observation we made when preparing this presentation, is that the hype of metaverse, which is used today, is actually the blockchain and ER, VR coming together, right? And never had thought that. So separate technologies, but today the metaverse, NFTs, the cryptocurrency, the virtual reality and the virtual worlds, which are linked to blockchain or objects in blockchain. So 2 blocks that you see there, blockchain and VR, coming actually together in what we call the whole metaverse, which is something I never could expect or predicted from the data as such. But to recap, of the 4 main technologies, AI is the only game in town, not the only one, but the biggest game in town, impacting our daily lives already for many years. It will only accelerate in impacting our lives professionally as well as private. If you break it down over time, then it's even more clear for me. This is our investments in technology companies in Europe, 2010 up to this quarter or this month in there. And you see that month after month, year after year, investment is really increasing in AI. I mean, look to 2010, we talk about €500,000. It's ridiculous, right? It's nothing actually as a deal size. So it went to other technologies and other kind of companies. And if you look to today, we talk about, we reached the 10 billion euros in Europe going to technology companies. So the primary technology is AI, to be clear, which is in their offering. That's huge. You can see it in the color shift as well. So that means something is happening there, because this is a validation. If you get funding, it means people do their homework, right? Investors do their homework, although sometimes there's also hype, do their homework. And it's based on the traction of these companies in terms of employees, revenue, expansion, etc., and funding, etc., etc., etc. So the color shift from red to green over here the last 12, 13 years is huge, and it's sustainable. If you ask me my prediction for this year, I think we will be close to last year. Don't think it will again be a big jump like we saw here. It will be a smaller jump, but will be still the #1 technology for many years to come from investment point of view, and therefore also from validated innovation point of view as well. But AI, like I said, is a term used and used correctly and often also not correctly. If you will break it down, then you see that this is based on how the companies describe themselves. To be clear, we didn't do research in is it really AI or is it just a linear regression or something? And then you can see the categories. The generic term artificial intelligence is used, of course, but then it's machine learning is the #1, followed by computer vision, followed by applications in robotics. And then you have autonomous vehicles, chatbots. So chatbot became not as mainstream as we thought, or many people thought at least. Then you see also the merge between AI, Internet of Things. Think about edge computing. It's coming together there. So it's called AI or EOT. You have natural language processing, which is lower than I would expect it from all the non-structural information out there. Speech, out there for many, many years. Think about Turnout and Housepy in the 90s. Didn't really become mainstream yet. We don't use it like we should do. Yes, we have Google Assistant. Yes, we have Siri, but it didn't become really that big, to my surprise. You have RPA. There was a new kid on the block and quite overhyped. Number of unicorns became based on RPA technology in there. Predictive analytics and last recommendation engines, there are very few of them playing a role, but used, of course, in Netflix, Amazon, Spotify as such. So to me, it shows that certain things are overestimated in their potential, or maybe it's too early and we will see them shifting in the coming years in there. Like, for instance, speech as such. Other things are really high. The computer vision, security cameras, or other things, your camera, it's all over the place. And AI is very good in processing pictures. It's also very clear from what we can see around us. Who's investing in this in all these companies in Europe? The top 10 of players. First of all, there's only one US company in the top 10 in number of deals in AI companies. It's surprising, I would say. I would expect much more US money is going into that kind of technology. It's not. The majority of them are European-based investors, private equity more than venture capital. And you can see where they are. I mean, UK is strong. Now we have a Brexit, but UK and London specifically will be still a hotspot for scale-ups and tech companies for many years to come. And for this reason, the ecosystem is there. And then you see players in France or in Germany. Interesting enough, BPI France #1 and #9 is government money. It's not private capital, so government is playing a big role in the ecosystem. But once again, surprising that US is only one big investor in the top 10, and UK is dominant like expected. If you look to the Belgian ones, the number 19 is PNV, and number 24 is Volta Ventures. Both are Belgium-based investors. PNV is only doing Belgium or Flanders more specifically, and Volta looks to European scale. Also, from my point of view, an interesting observation is all of them are general or generic VC or private equity players, meaning that they're not experts and focusing only on AI. If you look to the US, there are many more funds investing only in AI companies and bringing value in the AI ecosystem. If you look to Europe, there are very few of them that are having a specific focus on only AI. It's also true for other things like blockchain or AR, VR. Despite the richness of our ecosystem in Europe, I am seeing very few, like I think they're between 5 and 10 in total, VC and private equity, and 2 of them are corporate venturing background. That's another surprise to me that despite the size of our ecosystem, last year we had more than 100 billion euros going to these companies in Europe. So it's becoming a mature ecosystem. The first time we had 100 billion, yet we don't have specific funds. I'm also very pleased to hear that there are at least some plans to do something here in Belgium around it, because there's a market for that. Very few are specialized in the biggest technology out there within Europe. If you look to where these companies are, the number of them, not the size, of course, because if you take the size, it might be a bit different. Not a surprise, the big 3, UK, France, and Germany are top 3. Then you have Sweden. Sweden is doing very well as an ecosystem. We have Switzerland, also a small ecosystem, but doing very well. It's bigger than Spain, which is a bigger economy, or Italy, which is not in top 10. Then Spain, then Belgium is number 7. I'm very pleased with that. It's in AI over these 13 years, even bigger in number of deals than the Netherlands, which I think it's an achievement, given the Netherlands is a more mature ecosystem than Belgium. You have Finland and Norway. Again, the top 3 are not surprising, but if you look to the others, they are quite small countries. They are bigger economies in Europe than Switzerland or Sweden or even Belgium. You look to the cities, it follows a bit the same logic. The only thing which is interesting to note there is that Germany has 2 cities in there, i.e. Munich and Berlin. You have to know that Berlin in general is more B2C, Munich is more B2B. And use the same thing with UK, it's London, #1. There's also Cambridge, which is more on deep tech focus, and spin-offs of university over there, also in the top 10, which is itself an achievement in there. Belgium disappeared from the top 10 in the cities because we are quite spread. If we take London or Paris, 70% of all these companies are in London or Paris. It's very concentrated. If you take Belgium, it's all over the place. We are one ecosystem, but if you look one city, you break it down, then of course it becomes spread over Liège, Brussels, Ghent, Leuven, Antwerp. So as a city, we don't score high. As a country, one ecosystem, we do actually much better. Something very similar you can see in the Netherlands. Netherlands is a mature ecosystem, but you also have different pools. You have Amsterdam, you have which is strong in fintech, for instance. You have Eindhoven, which is more in deep tech and hardware. You have Wageningen, which is more food tech and agri-tech. So also there, like we are, they are small countries, they are more spread over different cities than the concentration that you have in London or in Paris. But overall, I'm very pleased with the position of Belgium over these 13 years in number of deals attracted to EI companies. And of course, you cannot ignore unicorns, companies which are worth $1 billion or more, and in private hands, not public yet at the moment in time. In the meantime, the #1 is not unicorn anymore because he went public a couple of years ago, but I put them there because you all know them, Spotify. And what I like is it's quite spread. If you look to the number of industries, whether it's music or mobility or cybersecurity or health tech or business intelligence or media, whatever, it's happening in all kinds of industries. That's also the richness of the ecosystem that we have. So EI is everywhere. Another special attention or observation in this list is look to Norway. It's a small country, Norway, 4 million people population, compared to 11 million in Belgium, for instance. Yet number 11, Meltwater, is in Oslo. Number 18, AutoStore, is in Norway. And number 19 is also in Norway. So the unicorns, to my surprise, in EI, 3 of them are based in the small country of Norway. Again, it shows you don't have to be big to be great, right, as a country. Then back to our book, Laurence.
Yeah, so that leaves us to Nooit nog normaal, which we published this summer. And we gave an overview about how digital, like AI, has entered every corner of our lives, and how this brings massive opportunities in all domains of society. And we've looked at 4 of them, at education, labor market, entrepreneurship, and civic society. And these aren't just our views. We interviewed a lot of experts to get their view on things, to have their view on how their domain is evolving, and also how they are using digital to upgrade our lives, so to say. The conclusion was general, that there is a big opportunity. Well, the general conclusion, sorry, is that there is a big opportunity to create value with digital. The vast majority of our economy are services, and offering those services digitally disconnects them from time and from location. And that's what makes it interesting and handy for all of us. But at the same time, technology, digital technology, is nothing more than a lever. Just like the wheel, which is one of the oldest technologies of mankind, which helps us to move a load with little effort. Well, we only benefited the wheel when roads were being created. And that's a bit the same with digital technology. It only began to pay off when we were all connected via digital highway, which is actually the internet and our smartphone now. So we'll have a look at the impact of digital technologies, but bear in mind that although they can significantly improve our lives, and technology will help us to solve major societal challenges, it always needs to be in combination with our behavior, because technology doesn't exist in isolation, and any introduction of a new technology should always be accompanied by making choices about what kind of society we want. So the 4 domains will go to the first one, to education. So what are the main evolutions here? Well, the impact of COVID was enormous. From one day to another, students were at home. They had to learn using a digital platform, and not only the students, I mean teachers as well. Everybody had a digital upgrade. Parents as well. They changed from one day to another into coaches, into teachers as well. But we also realized that there was a strong need for digital competences for teachers, for students. Not only about how to use digital tools, but also, for example, how to create digital content. When I look at the tasks that my kids were given, a lot of the times it was an email containing a PDF document, which you had to print out, fill in, take a picture, and send it back again. I mean, that's not the way you should use digital tools. It's not about copy paste of a physical process into a digital one. I mean, you really need to look at the user experience, and printing out the PDF and scanning it and sending it back. That's not well, then you don't use digital at its best. And that's also what Raimonda Verdijk told in our book. She's the former head of the gemeenschapsonderwijs in Belgium. And she says digitalization is more than hardware or software in education. It's actually about using technology in a smart way, because you can use a smart board just as a regular chalkboard, but what is the added value then? Another thing on the slide here is blended learning. Well, blended learning will remain. I mean, part of the courses will be on-site, other parts you can do at home, through webinars, through online meetings, etc. And this blended reality is here to stay. In our book, Rick Ferrat calls it the birth of the Homo sapiens, so OMO. He says online merges with offline, and offline merges with online. And actually digital and physical merge into each other, because we want online convenience in our offline world, and we want the offline experience in our online world. Now, if we look at the general opportunities and risks for digital in education, I think digital allows you to differentiate. So it's really, well, it goes beyond knowledge transfer. You can also enhance the experience. For example, with virtual reality, if you put on your glasses, you can visit pretty much every city in the world. You can even visit Mars or the moon. But you could also go back and relive historic moments. So imagine if kids will be able to do that. I think they'll be much more interested in courses like geography and history. It will also, digital will also make learning independent of time and location. It will also enhance international collaboration with other schools, and then personalized learning. But the risks is, well, access for everyone to hardware and software, to an internet connection, but also the right set of skills for everybody. And students need specific competences like discipline, resilience when working at home. That's not that easy as well. So I don't know, Omar, if you want to add anything.
I'd like to add some examples, if it's okay.
Yeah, nice.
All right, let's make it tangible. See if it works out. So if we look to education, we every time we selected some examples. The first one comes from Scandinavia. So what happens here? You might all remember when you had to read back at school. In there, depending on your age and level, you were allowed to read certain books. It had this abbreviation AV 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I remember it right, in there. And it was based on roughly your age as such. But thanks to software like Lexpo, you see here a child who is reading aloud. The software is doing speech recognition and can tell exactly where the child stands, not on just a high level age, whatever. It can compare to peers in the same age, peers in the same town, same school, same environment in there, and therefore can give recommendation on the right level that you want to really bring it forward to children. So AI here can do something on a specific one-to-one basis that you cannot do with the system of a classroom or age level of reading certain level of books in there. That's something which I think can be really game-changing towards children. If we look to another example here, Photomat, it's popular for children who try to solve a certain math problem and they get stuck with it in there. So basically you can take even a picture of certain formulas or calculations. It will help you, guide you towards really applying and finding answers to the certain math issues that you can have, being it a child or being it grown up in there. Again, here AI plays a role that helps you really step by step to understand the issues you have and see how you can solve it. It's like a remote teacher or a personal coach that you can have for math. And of course, playing is learning. There's a number of companies out there like this one that creates little robots to play with in there that you can program in there, and the more you play with it, the better you become in it. So you can also see here that the world here is changing, and the children today can really play with connected tools, with software, and often there's a component of AI in there because they're quite smart tools in there. And growing up actually in an environment when you can do all these kind of things, I think it's great in that way to learn the new possibilities of technology in there. To be clear, I'm not against Lego. Keep the stupid things as well in there, but it's exciting that the new possibilities towards our future generations. Learning language, the dream of everybody. Look to the promise. You can learn a new language. Yes, you can, in only 3 months. And for only 9.99, it's almost unbelievable, right? In there, in any language you want. I guess these days, a lot of people want to learn Russian or Ukrainian to help people come into here as such. And you can even try it for free, what's not to like. But the whole thing is you get your personal, teacher in there. And normally you cannot pay for a personal teacher, it's very expensive in there. But thanks to AI, they're gonna help you to have your coach to help you in the level, give you more input, give you corrections in there. So something which you cannot pay for, like a one-to-one teacher for the coming months, AI can provide you customized to your needs, to your level of the language, as such can bring it to the next level. Now, I would hard to believe that you can do it in 3 months and only exercise 45 minutes a day. Okay, that's maybe an overpromise, but the fact that AI can do that at a cost which is really low here, that's to me the paradigm shift in learning new languages as such. Lastly, here is another example, Sana Labs, I think also from Scandinavia. This is about using AI to really create experiences and create courses within it's B2B, it's for organizations in there, and blend it towards live own learning, whatever. As an organization, a number of you work for bigger organizations as such. In there, it's hard sometimes to make an offering. You have a catalog somewhere, you have live teaching, and you can pick and choose. What this doing, Sana Labs, is to look to the skills of everybody, tries to match it with blended, offline, online, whatever, and make it really like your personal growth plan within an organization using actually AI. So that's their promise. And again, make it personal will be very hard, or will be something you cannot pay for, right? To make it really custom to what you need. If you look at these 5 examples, I think it's all fascinating. The question is, does it really have traction or not? So what I did for this call this afternoon is to look to the traction they have in the backlinks, because if backlinks the website are growing as such, probably they have also more traction in the market. So let's see if they fly or not. Great ideas, but is there a market for it? Is it validated, and is it having traction? So if you look into these 5, there you go. What you see is math is the issue that everybody has, or the children have as such. It's huge. I mean, look how the jump is in there, relatively speaking to everybody else. So math, without any question, is a need that children and parents probably have to be really solved. It's an amazing jump in there. But of course, if you take out the outlier here, everybody's growing, some are faster. For instance, if you take the language one, 9.999 for 3 months in there, nice traction growing in there. If you take these little robots that you can buy, the smart Lego, it's a bit on a plateau in there, it's steady. If you look to Sana Labs for organizations, nice growth, but on a small scale. And if you look to L'Explore, then it's growing, but quite slow, which makes you think that if you look to the solution, every school should use that, in my opinion, because you can really help children on a personal level. Like sample size is 1 and not sample size for 1 million, like the books are the books traditional way is doing. It also just means that schools are not a driver for innovation and new things as such. While if the parents have a problem with the children, like the maths, you know, they're gonna solve it and they're gonna pay for it, which is also another conclusion from a business model point of view as such. So these are the inspirations and impact they're having in the area of education.
Thank you, Omar. Let us have a look at the impact of digitalization on the labor market, where, of course, a lot of jobs are being lost because of digitalization, automatization, robotization, but also a lot of new jobs are being created. Think about data scientists, about UX designers, about people working in the gig economy, Airbnb, Uber, Deliveroo, a lot of new types of jobs. But at the same time, everybody's job is also evolving, and digital has got a big impact on the content of our jobs and also the way we execute our jobs. So we need to stay relevant, and one way to do this is to keep on learning, lifelong learning. And it has never been this easy as today, because there is really an overload of training and courses you can follow within and without the organization and companies. And a lot of businesses focusing on upskilling and reskilling, and a lot of social organizations working on these topics have emerged over the recent years. There are a lot of MOOCs, e-learnings, micro-learnings. I mean, the amount of newsletters you can subscribe to, people you can follow on social media, academic research articles. I mean, there is just too much you can't follow. There's actually nothing holding us back to learn on a daily basis or throughout our whole lives besides ourselves. Another thing we noticed on the labor market is that thanks to or due to COVID, it's had a huge impact on the way we work and where we work. And I can't imagine myself going back to the office 5 days a week from 9 to 5. I mean, hybrid working is a new reality, if your job allows it, of course. But I think it's a good change. Makes it easier to combine your personal life and your professional life, to be honest. So, Omar, don't know, you want to add anything or?
No, I think the point you made, Laurence, about the overload of information and offering is huge. I think you need AI to sort it out for you, what you need, because it's impossible to, I mean, even in my own domain, to keep up to date what's happening. And this is just Europe, not Asia or the US. It's simply not possible. So I really, truly believe that the future for to absorb on a scale that you can absorb it, AI will play a major role in sorting out for you what you want or not. It's already happening today in the newsfeed, in Twitter, in Facebook, whatever. But in a professional context, it has a lot of potential as well, because it's something I need on a daily basis for sure. I looked at some examples as well here. One that I like is from Munich, is Germany. So what you're doing is basically CoBrainer is scanning all the mailboxes of our employees. In there, you give them access to it, first of all, and all documents and PowerPoints and Word documents. And based on what you write, not what you read, they will map out your skill set, basically. So what happens if you write about energy, documents, PowerPoint, emails, within an organization, the software, which is AI powered, will know that your expertise is indeed on energy in there, right? As such, so in that sense, it's really like a smart way. Writing is equal to skills in there to map out the knowledge in your organization. Another one is hiring. One of the biggest issues today companies have is to attract top talent in there. Hire Suite is doing that for programmers and software development. Basically, what they're doing is scanning basically all the open source software, go to Hub and other places like GitHub, and find out based on talent, the people are not looking for jobs, because often the ones you want are not looking for a job as such. In there, and they're finding them. The problem is not to find them, actually. The AI is doing very well in finding the right skills online in a different ways, smart scraping and using AI to find the right skills. The problem is to convert them to come on board, because you need to have an exciting project in there, because you're not looking for a job. So you better have an offering which is attractive. In there, it used to be working at home, I guess, but these days everybody is doing it in the new hybrid world that Laurence was describing in there. So that's another one. Hire Suite is based in Paris, but it has Belgian roots because it's been made by e-founders here in Brussels originally. Now, let me first close these ones. Another one here is leadership. Also there, you can have an AI coach that make it easy for you to learn and to grow. It gives you input, it gives you certain small trainings in there. It will not tell you what decisions you have to make, to be clear in there, but I like the fact that they took niche leadership, very important one as such, and using AI to give you tips, input, look to your skills, see how you're progressing, give you small things you can learn in there, connect you with other people who have similar kind of goals or challenges in there. So even in soft skills like leadership in there, and God knows that some of our managers need that, right? That kind of, of coaching. It can happen also using AI. I'm wondering if everybody has it, do we have all the same kind of leadership, but people are different anyway, so I will not be leave my sleep for that. Lastly, no, not lastly, here is Litio. Let me shift here in there, and that's to a certain extent even spooky. You see here the lady here, she's analyzed by computer vision. Eye contact, what she's doing, she's saying something, and they're looking to feelings. Is she excited or not, as such, in there? So imagine you do an interview, and not just you get somebody interviewing you, but there's also a whole bunch of data collected about you, what you think, how you feel, how do you behave, the hand going up or not, are you unsure, are you maybe not telling the whole truth in there? That's looking actually almost scary as such, but it's a reality that is coming our way, that we're augmenting our skills in interviewing. The good thing is it's less biased, because today people are biased, trying to hiring people often similar to them in there, and AI maybe can play a sense in there, ethical AI at least, to really have more diversity in companies in terms of hiring. So that's another one which is happening out there, and for some people really scary. And lastly, here is another Belgian one, TechWolf. I think Laurence, you're part of your portfolio that you work with, a bunch of very, very young people at their first venture after they graduated 2 years ago, I believe, in there, which is really about mapping out skills within companies. In that sense, really try to have the right person in the right position within companies. Again, what I like here is it's automated, but also unbiased. It's ethical in the sense like the right skills for the right people in the right place. That's really exciting from that point of view, that ethical AI can play a role in in diversity and giving people opportunities within companies. The question is, okay, great. I think you all love the ideas and what people are doing here, but is it flying or not? Let's see that. Ready? And there you are. This. So what do we see? Here, most action is Bunchpunt AI. If you remember, there was the one about leadership in there. It's a nice opt-in, and now it's a bit on a plateau, but still highest traction. If you look to higher suites in there, very hard, despite that they're solving a real problem, i.e. finding the right people, but you have to convert them, like I said earlier on. So it's a bit disappointing from that point of view. If you look to this one, Vittorio, this is the computer vision, which is interviewing you, like augmenting the interview. Unfortunately, it goes very high. So it means sooner or later you will get faced with it if you do interviews as such. This is CoBlox, great idea. It had a little bit of traction, but it's not working out. I think privacy is an issue. People don't want you to know what they're doing all the time in the mailbox. It's a privacy challenge. And then lastly, our little own company here from Ghent, TechWolf, is young. It starts later on, but it gets nice traction. It's still small, but it's growing. So let me help them in growing by taking away everybody else. And then you see, wow, it's hyper growth, and that's how we like to see it.
Nice. Okay, well, I'm sure they've all got the entrepreneurial mindset, the guys at TechWolf. It's never been so easy to start a company than now. I mean, the amount of incubators, accelerators, coaching programs, subsidies you get from government. I mean, entrepreneurship is really being promoted and pushed within society. But even if you don't start your own company, it's really the entrepreneurial mindset at school, or also if you're in a company, an entrepreneur, that makes the difference. And one of the most important skills or competences for entrepreneurs are like curiosity, taking initiative, wanting to make a difference or an impact. Thanks to digital, we see that the amount of students that start a business besides while they're still at uni or at school are rising. One of my son's friends started her webshop a few weeks ago, and she's only 11. So, I mean, it's really nice to hear that young people are inspired by digital to create businesses as well. So it's all about seeing opportunities and seizing them, because you want to offer an experience or you want to create a product or a service that resonates with your target audience or your market segments, and that way you want to create value. And once you've found your way to your target market, you want to capture part of that value and let it flow back to your organization. And most of the time that's money, or the price that people pay for the experience you are giving them. And that's the valorization part. So I don't know, Omar, since you're an entrepreneur, I imagine that digital was a big lever for you as well.
Basically, thanks to digital, to start a company becomes very easy, Laurence. I mean, digital means that you don't have high investments. You can do it from your bedroom or garage. It happened a number of times. You can start very small without heavy capital investment. A laptop and internet connection is enough. Even co-working space is cheap these days. You can sit there, work, having a latte, enjoying what you're doing. So launching a company becomes easier than ever compared to the past. That's what I like about digital as an opportunity for entrepreneurship. I also have some examples that I quickly want to show because we're running out of time, actually. This is about civil society. I apologize. Let me see if I can bring it back. Yeah, that's the better one. Let me restart it here. This is one of the things, overload of information we discussed earlier on in there. So if you look to my desktop and my documents, actually, it's a mess. There's so much in there. One thing that helps you to get your priorities and find your files in there is AI driven. What a surprise. Kiwi is one of these products that really help you out to find quickly, having reference and having your priorities in there. It's extremely smart. I didn't do a test yet. I believe the marketing that they have on their website in there, but it's I was quite tempted to try it out. There's a free trial probably, and see how it can help me to sort out what I need to sort out as such. Make it smaller again. Another one which is very handy, I'm using it quite often, is Google Trends. Probably you all know it in there. Google knows pretty much everything about what people are looking for. And here you can really look very specific in Belgium, globally, if something is trending or not in there. And then based on that, you can see, you can try to predict what will be the next big thing that will happen as such. It's a very good tool, it's free, and it's out there and it can be used. One which is less known, the Google Trends, I think, is Think with Google, like this one in there, which gives you really insights and inspiration. In there, it's every time they're bundling all their insights, make some content around it. The content is for free in there, so you can look what Google created using AI in different domains, and really have like free research that you can use, paid for by Google. Another one, if you write a number of blogs or your social media in there, then you can use the blog topic generator because you want to have a catchy title. It's very American, but I still like to use it to get an outside view. So let's take EI, for instance, and we take book in there. And then it comes said, hey, could be expectations versus reality in there. They claim it's AI, I don't know. Maybe it's just a list that they generate somewhere. Will AI ever rule the world? Something which is like clickbait. People want to read that kind of content. It's very, very, the next big thing in AI. So it helps you also in creativity, in finding catchy titles that you can really use. It's clearly made for Twitter as such. And the last, no, there's a couple of more. One is here, is from Neil Patel. He's like a famous growth hacker. You can give him your website. We'll not do it now because of time constraints. And then helps you to find the right keywords to really get more traffic to your website. Again, it's an AI-driven engine. And then another one which is easy to integrate. You saw chatbots are not that big as we thought they are, although it can be very handy to take pressure away from your organization. And if you're busy as an entrepreneur, you're not always available to support the customers on your website as such. So smart chatbot can help you. Botfuel is one of the many providers. I took them because you have a very good reputation. It's a French-based in there that you can use to make your own chatbot, integrating your own e-commerce website. If you're an e-commerce entrepreneur, you start a new business or whatever business in there, then this can really help you to reduce your support questions in a smart way. And it's actually relatively good. I don't have always good experience with AI chatbots, but the feedback on Botfuel is quite positive. So if you look now to these ones, of course I took out Google and everybody else because it will not be fair. Do they fly or not? That's the main question. So the first one and the last one. You can see here that the chatbot is growing, but nobody wants to sort out all the different kind of archives in there. They have a little bit of traction, but far from the potential that they have in there. To be fair, it's a relatively new company, so hopefully it will go faster in the future.
Okay, thanks. And then the last domain we looked at was civic society. And as in all other domains, data is important here as well. And we shouldn't underestimate the tasks of civic society organizations. And more than ever, they should have the ambition to be the focal point at the intersection of welfare and well-being. You know, the market is the engine of economy and therefore of prosperity, and civic society is the engine of society and therefore of welfare. And digitalization has got a strong influence there as well. If we take a look at how technology is influencing our own living and working environments, living becomes smaller, but at the same time more spacious. Buildings like cities are becoming smarter and more multifunctional. many of us can do our jobs from almost anywhere, indoor, outdoors. The same goes for the way we live. You can order and have everything delivered. Our entertainment and leisure time are digital first. Our mobility is controlled by apps and by algorithms. Care tasks can be done more at home. And even the communication we have with our neighbors is taking place in a digital environment. So digital technology is really shaping our lives and our society. And now with the government that is digitizing and using automation, it also means that there's a smaller role for civic society. Because digitalization makes the level between the government and citizen smaller. Sorry?
Getting closer to each other.
Yeah, true. Like with e-commerce, you take away the shops. Well, it's pretty much the same with the civic society and digital. Now, in order to succeed in providing an impactful service from these organizations, they need to look like the businesses to the service itself and rethink actually the relation between their members. And there's a huge opportunity to optimize those relations. And through automation, like, how should I put it? The reimbursements of the health insurance funds, for example, through the reimbursement, through the automatization, that means that there is more meaningful work for people because they spend less time on administration and they can put in more time in the relationship between their members as well. And one of the interviews we did was with Luc van Gorp, who is head of the Christelijke Mutualiteiten in Belgium, which is the biggest health insurance fund in Belgium. And they started the transition they started focusing on prediction rather than on cure. So from, I don't know how to say it in English, from a ziektefonds to a health fund. So instead of taking care of your members when they're sick, you really want to predict and you want them to stay healthy.
From reactive to proactive, actually.
Yeah, that's what I want to say. Thanks. And then there is another example in our book. Omar, it's the example that you always give, how they really can make use of data. Imagine like 11-11-11, if they would visually and in real time show once you've made a contribution where it goes, what impact you have, what's being done with the fund you are investing or you are giving, that would make a huge impact, and it wouldn't only grow by 10%, but probably by a factor 10. So there are a lot of opportunities for civic society as well to experiment with data and to learn from startups like business models, the way they build communities, the way they use social media, etc.
Again, I have examples here, but our time is over, so we'll not show them. I don't know if there is time for maybe one question before we close down the session. They love the examples, and
okay.
Great.
Yeah. Maybe you can show the next slide, because that's an important one as well, Omar.
Right. The last one then.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of women active in AI in Belgium as well. You see here founders and CEOs from Big Grader, Cantify, Civic, Delta Q, I mean, ML6, a lot of power women active in Belgium. And there is something which is, well, there's actually a mistake on this slide, and I want to ask you, can you find the mistake?
We will not find them, Laurence, so I go to the next slide.
Yeah, you'll show them.
Show them. If it works.
Yeah, okay. So actually, these three women aren't real. They're generated by AI. Something to end with. But besides that, we've got a whole ecosystem of power women in AI. And tomorrow evening, we'll have a session about that as well, about breaking a bias in AI. So thank you.
Thank you
for listening. And what better way to end than with a quote of one of the most powerful women in the world. We really should benefit from technology and from digital. And that's something each and every one of us really should do. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.